I'm going to call the meeting to order. Can I get a motion that the agenda for the November 10th, 2020 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted as presented? Councillor Byer will make that motion. All those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion that the minutes of the October 22nd, 2020 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted as presented? Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion. Everybody read them, looked over them? Any changes?
Yes.
Concerns? All those in favor? Good. All right, moving forward to delegation with the Edson Friendship Center. I'm guessing they're coming in on Zoom? Perfect. Thank you, Steve.
Oh, start your video.
Oh.
Sorry, that's just not my gift.
Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Awesome, great. So I'm Erica Snook-Pennings, registered social worker at the Edson Friendship Center. I am here with Anne Oriot from the Recycle Depot, Christine Gillum from Public Health, AHS, and Christian Delisle, Staff Sergeant. Sorry. So I'm going to start. So I'm not sure that everybody around the table is 100% familiar with what I do. So I am the Housing Plus program, because it's just me, working 4 days a week. Just to give you just a very quick blurb on what I do, because I service a lot of the population of individuals who are experiencing homelessness in Edson. I have people's mail. I provide a drop-in service with food and toiletries, mittens, jackets, those sorts of things. I do people's taxes and store them. One of the biggest things I do is I broker these individuals with the other services that are in town, which is particularly important at this time during COVID, because a lot of those offices are closed. Alberta Works is totally apply online and over the phone. So you need a phone to access those services and to do the assessments, AISH, probation, those sorts of things. I also replace people's ID, store any documents for them. I attend doctor's appointments with people. I supervise some community treatment orders for individuals who are required to take medication, those sorts of things. So that's sort of it in a nutshell, probably a lot more, but off the cuff, that's what comes to mind. So when COVID started back in March, I continued to see clients. I saw about a 25% increase in my client base within the first month or so, which has remained constant. I have a caseload of over 60 individuals. About 85% of those people are experiencing homelessness, but they fall into two categories. So about 30% of those individuals are what I would call unsheltered. So they don't have a regular place to sleep. Those are the people that are couch surfing, sleeping in the recycle depot, propping tents around town, sleeping rough, like behind CN or on the east side of town. So yeah, there's about 30% of that population, 30% of my client base is unsheltered, and about 55% of them are what I would call, under the homelessness definition, is provisionally housed. So that's jail, hotels, are sharing rooms with people. I would say also the mission probably falls under that category, because if Pastor Jim's not going to be running the mission again at any time, then those individuals don't have anywhere to stay. So yeah, I was averaging close to about 300 visits a month in that 3 hours that I'm open in the afternoon seeing people. So in September, I approach reflections because reflections of seeing a lot of the population of individuals that I'm seeing. So I had gone to one of their meetings to talk about what could we do to collaborate in terms of providing services, or talk about what was happening with some of these individuals. And it was at that time that Anne came forward to me and said she had this idea about putting pods at the recycle depot. In terms of looking forward, due to COVID, we were concerned that the out of the cold shelter was not going to be adequate. Plus, we were sort of looking more globally in terms of having something that would run possibly year round, not just during temperatures of -30 or -28 or whatever that would look like, that there would be something available for people even at 0 or even if it's pouring rain, sort of thing. So she had approached me at that time saying that she had this idea, which I thought was fantastic. And then we pulled in Christine Gillum to be part of the project and discuss where we should probably go with this. And then after that, met with Tanya from the town and Al Schramm, and then brought in the RCMP to sort of have a collaborative approach to what's the viability, what does everybody think, those sorts of things. So yeah, just to give, I'm going to pass it over to Anne for a few minutes just to give a little blurb on what that shelter pod looks like exactly, because that's more of her scope, is more the building piece. Mine is more the people piece. So I'm going to slide over and let her slide in, and then I'll be back to tell you what I'm asking for.
Hi, everyone. As most of you know, I'm Anne, and I manage the recycling depot in Edson. And first and foremost, it is not the business of the recycling depot to look into homelessness, but it became a big issue with safety, and we were noticing certain events in town with our recycling buildings and our building ourselves. So as a result, we looked at collaboration and working with groups and seeing, trying to be proactive. And how do we be proactive? And one day it hit me, we do have a building that has some capacity to help with this, and I think it's an ideal situation and location. So the idea is to create 5 individual pods that are 5 by 8. They each have an individual door and access to them. They will only have, it's very bare minimal and it's very simplistic. So it has a mat. It has a individual door with a key lock or with a pad so that they are given a code. It has a fire alarm. It has fire suppression, and it has ventilation. So giving those ideas, would this work? And that's why I approached Erica and said, does this make any sense at all? And I think that will take away our issues with safety with the rest of the building, provide an individual location for people, and become very cheap, accessible, COVID barrier proof, and also look at it being low maintenance to overall and to complete it. So we're looking at ourselves being the sort of the vehicle to provide that service for Homelessness Plus and help in a community project. So that is my sort of, in a nutshell.
Okay. So yeah, like for me, in terms of being somebody who deals with a lot of these people on a regular basis, it meets several criteria for me that I think are important. It provides safety for people in terms of just physical safety, that they're in out of the cold and not at risk of dying. It also protects their belongings, because often they have a backpack, that's it, a few things, so they're not at risk of having their things stolen. They're also not at risk of being harmed. So they can close that door and sleep for the night, actually get some sleep and not have to worry about being harmed in any way. And it's also, as Anne has said, would be COVID friendly because it would be built such that somebody can spray it down in the morning. Should be covered in some type of, I think, vinyl.
Yep.
Some type of vinyl that can be easily sprayed down. So it's pretty quick to clean up. And yeah, so we also were looking at the location in terms of, we have individuals who are going there already. It's away from residential area. So we're not going to hopefully have any concerns about increased property damage, those sorts of things. It's also, in terms of rural Alberta, MAT programs seem to be what's most commonly run. My belief is it's very difficult to find enough individuals who are going to want to volunteer on a regular basis for that length of time overnight to run MAT program. I think that's in general why most programs are not successful. I know just in general with being on the board of the food bank, that's been a struggle on and off just to get volunteers to come for a 2-hour period. So I don't know how you could reasonably expect people to come out in mass to provide 12-hour shifts 7 days a week. So I feel that this is good in terms of it has a minimal volunteer base, mostly it being me, in terms of volunteering in the evening to carry a phone so that people can call in if the pods are not full and I can give them the code. Because I think it's important that it just be at least one person, even if it's per week, that has all that information so there's nothing lost going back and forth, like somebody's not rented, but given out the pod number and then somebody else is misunderstood. So, and I think the other thing I like is that this, once it's built, it should be relatively easy to maintain and it's sustainable over a long period of time. And as I said earlier, we are hoping that we can run this year round. I mean, I don't think there's any way to be 100% positive that it's going to work, which is why we'd like to pilot just 5 of these pods to start. But hopefully, anything that comes up that we can address it sort of as like our group, how to deal with things as they come. And we have support of the RCMP as well. So if things arise that we can deal with them efficiently. So yeah, the money piece. So the Edson Friendship Center is a nonprofit and we're able to give donation receipts. So the money will come in through me and then Anne will invoice me and then I will, well, not me, but our bookkeeper, but through me will pay that money out to Anne. So that piece will be taken care of. And then finally request. So what we would like to request from the town is, if possible, to divert the money that was going to be used to the Out of the Cold shelter, to divert that to us. We need to ask for a variance in the user agreement for the recycle depot so that we can actually have those emergency overnight pods set up. And then, I mean, part of the project was born out of the fact that we're dealing with COVID. So I don't know if there is any money through the town in terms of capital to start the project through COVID funding. So yeah, that's sort of it from me. I don't know if you have any further questions. Everybody is here to answer questions. If anybody has anything.
All right. Okay. Thank you to both you and Anne presenting there. I will open it to council. I'm sure we have lots of questions for you. Councillor Beyer.
Thanks. Through the chair to, I guess this is maybe more for administration on this. I'm not sure who it's to. So one of my, I love the idea. I think this is a great, different way of thinking. I like that you have, as mentioned in your your papers to us here, that this location would minimize that not in my backyard complaints. I think that part's great. One of my concerns is that $60,000 seems to be a really high cost for a pilot project. And last year when we talked about this, we were thinking about getting the $20,000 trailer. I think, it had come up anyways in discussion, and, we went with the renting idea because it's a pilot. And if there was, maybe if it didn't work out or we needed to make changes, then we don't want to make that large investment in something that we would change. And sure enough, not even a year later, COVID came, and now, has made that a challenge. So I'm kind of wondering if $60,000 is a lot of money for a pilot, as well as, I have a concern that if the Recycle Depot built that building for their future needs, I'm not familiar with how that internal part of it works, but if they require that space in 5 years, then we put $60,000 into an area that then would have to now rebuild it somewhere else. So I don't know if there's an opportunity to get another trailer that has separate rooms. I know it kind of came up in conversation. I don't recall what that cost was. That could maybe be on the property, but just not in that same building that they're utilizing for recycling needs. I'm not sure who may have that answer.
Okay, Mike, Mr. Derrick.
Thank you through the chair to Councillor Beyer. Two quick things is one, I would just say at this point, administration does have a report that comes later on the agenda that's directly related to this item, and so I think that's the stage where administration will give some feedback and perspective and answer any kind of questions specific to us. And at this point, I would suggest to try and gather as much information from Ms. Nook-Pennings and her group as much as possible. Secondly, certainly there's a number of options that can and might be considered along these same lines. I think I would just save further comments to our administrative report a little later in the meeting.
Okay, thanks. And then I think then that your second question would be to Anne, maybe, Erica, about concerns about further growth for the Recycling Society and the use of that building.
Sure. In particular, this building is for plastic and plastic bags. And I think everyone is aware that the federal government is looking at a ban on bags. That came in at around the same time I started looking at this. The other thing is worldwide, there's a lot of countries that are currently looking at bans and following through with it. So what it is also operationally looking at how can we make this work, and we're always very innovative as trying to make things work. The other thing is right now they're currently using this building to sleep in, and so when we come in the morning, it is a mess. So what this is looking at is this will hopefully alleviate that and make our day-to-day operation run a lot smoother. There is other options that we can use to try and make sure that fits into us.
Thank you. Councillor Schnurr?
I have two questions and a comment. My one comment is where I like the idea because, as was said by Councillor Beyer, is in my backyard. I would agree with the comment. A lot of these people are sleeping there because it's placed. So, but your cost of $64,000 for these pods. Right now, like there's a lot of these ATCO trailers and stuff, and that was a problem we had before. Where did we put it? And that would alleviate the problem that for a trial, if you could buy one and actually set it up, that would have 5 units and probably for less than $64,000 individual sleeping units. Would you be interested in looking at something like that? You ever heard of what he said?
So I don't know if there was a little bit of a misunderstanding. I'm not asking you for $60,000.
No.
Just to be clear, I am just asking if there is any amount of COVID funding. So I, in conjunction with Anne and Christine, are fully prepared to apply for grants. I've already approached a couple of places looking for some money. I have the lady who does all the grants at the food bank on board. She's going to help me apply for grants. I've also talked to Reaching Home, through Alberta Rural Development Network in terms of any capital for that. So I just, like I hear what you're asking. I just want it to be clear in terms of that the council doesn't discuss this afterwards and feel that we're asking as a group for $60,000 because we're not. We're fully prepared to fundraise that on our own. As for the trailer, I think
there's a lot of issues with how they're constructed and making it COVID-free, which is what our Christine has mentioned. It's also, I think Repsol looked at one point of that trailer and it was very expensive to move in and to put in place. But one other thing is, I think all of you know at the recycling depot how many donations and grants that we have acquired over the past 20 years. And when we go and ask, let's say, Weyerhaeuser for building materials to help with this, or ATCO Gas for connecting the gas line or other items, we do have a lot of fundraising abilities between us all. And so I think we're definitely not asking for 60,000 from the town of Edson. Bottom line is we need approval in that lease agreement to be able to add on this as a pilot.
Okay, thank you. No.
Councillor Sorensen?
Through the chair to Erica, I'm not sure if it's a legitimate concern, so I'm just wondering, do you worry that the pods, people will take ownership in a pod and they're gonna believe that they can count on it every night and that pod number one is theirs and that they take ownership in it? And I'm not sure if that's a concern or how you deal with that kind of.
I mean, I can't say that absolutely not, that won't happen. A lot of my clients I've built relationship with over a fair amount of years, and I'm very comfortable with, I would say 99% of them. So if that were to arise, I feel fairly confident that that's something I can deal with. I've also talked with Anne in terms of, especially come January, I'm going to have a student again who's very familiar with a lot of the client base. So we're going to be available 5 mornings a week that if Anne's having any difficulty getting anybody out, I'm quite comfortable to go over and have a chat with people. And I can have a discussion with people on an ongoing basis that the pods are first come, first serve. Yeah. I'm not worried about it. I can't say that it's not going to happen, but it's like, even as we talk about it, that's not really something that is significant on my radar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then of course the RCMP is also here as well to provide support.
And if I can say something, on the ones that we've had experience with, they try to be out of there before 8 or 9 and when we come on site. So we haven't had any issue with them continuing to sleep in the shredded paper bin or other bins.
Past
yeah.
the time in the morning.
Can I just have a follow-up?
Yep.
Before I ask that question, I should have mentioned that I'm very pleased with the group that you've gathered there, that partnership with all of RCMP, AHS, the Friendship Center, Recycling Society. I think everybody that needs to be at the table is at the table, so I'm very pleased that way.
Mayor Sarah?
Thank you very much for your presentation, Erica and Anne. Likewise, I'm very thrilled actually to see the collaboration between the agencies, including the town of Edson on this. This is the ideal location for a project of this nature. I know when we did the Out of the Cold shelter last winter, we found that individuals that were there overnight were gone before even 7 a.m. because they didn't want to interact. And I think it's really crucial that we start dealing with these issues. We know that homelessness is a problem in our community. We see a lack of support for rural homelessness, and I think this is a really excellent way to collaborate in a cost-effective and a long-term possible solution. The fact remains, I think most individuals will find a different location to stay, but if they do need a place, then we would have those pods available. So I'm in support of looking at this, and I think we have some options in order to make this a reality in the future, and I look forward to further collaboration. I know Staff Sergeant Delisle's there. Maybe he can provide comment from a policing perspective and how he would see that from a community safety point of view.
Yes, thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of police perspective, we support the idea. It's in line with our main goal is to have a safe community for everyone, homeless and citizen in Edson. So basically, what is appealing in this project is that it's providing a safe place for them to sleep. And we're hoping that it will have a ripple effect. And the ripple effect would be that the people that are using the pod are safe, but also it will give them then the next day maybe a better outlook on life, a better mood, and then we would have maybe less complaints, less disruptions. And I'm not saying that they're responsible for all of them, but they're humans like everybody else. And if they're spending the night outside worrying about if they're going to be getting hurt or whatnot, the next day they might not be as prepared to deal with their day. So we're hoping that the pilot project will go towards that and reducing some calls for service that we would be receiving, and then building from there. And if it's positive, to maybe having more pods and then providing more services where we can help these people that get them off the street, and then finding a permanent place to stay and then work and whatnot. So that's the perspective from the police. It's this safety for them, but then also improving the safety in the community and that ripple effect that it has.
Thank you. Councilor Wilkinson, do you have
Just have one
follow-up?
follow-up.
Yep.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant Delisle. And I think this is for administration. Would we have to change some zoning to allow this to happen, or is there enough flexibility on our land use bylaw to allow this at that location over and above the agreement we have with the Recycling Society?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. That's something that we're currently reviewing, haven't reviewed it in detail yet. I certainly am comfortable that we can manage a pilot program, or at least begin that. I would say that should a zoning change be required and council was supportive of the project, then it's reasonably safe to assume that that wouldn't be a major hurdle to cross to ensure that that's appropriately done.
Thank you.
Councilor Wilkinson?
Through the chair, I really would like to say thank you very much to this committee. It's finally happening. That's what I feel. We've talked about it, and it is a major problem. I've had a landlord from the east end of town talking about homeless people sleeping in our apartment block that they've broken in. I know in our condo we have problems with people breaking in there too. It is a problem that we have to come together as a community to do. And what the RCMP has said, we've had a safe town, let's build on having that safe town. And I really like this idea. Thank you so much.
Councilor Chenard?
My next follow-up question, I love the idea. Have we looked into liability? Anytime you set something like this, somebody's responsible. So where would the liability fall?
Who would be liable?
Yeah, Jean, we're working through the insurance portion of that. That's really something important to the Recycling Society. So that is being progressing well with that. So yes, that is a question that we had. We're also looking at this is a pilot. So we're going into this with our eyes wide open and being flexible with it. So yes, insurance is an issue that we're looking at. And then also the within our lease with the town, this has to be changed because our permitted use is only for recycling within our lease. So that has to be we just have to talk to the town about that and have that agreed upon.
Okay, thanks, because I've seen that you topped up the information I didn't have. Thank you.
I'll speak now. I do have a question. Erica, my biggest concern right now is just timelines and knowing we're already into November. And so what are your thoughts on timelines on being able to get this constructed and getting it going for this season? And is it realistic for this season?
You said Erica. I think that's best to be Anne. That's my scope is people. Anne is buildings. I'll let her speak.
There's three parts. There's a building permit, a building, and what is the other permit that the town looks after, and then finally the building of it. The building of it is not going to take very much time. What will take time is those two permits. So we're ready, and we've started the process. We just needed the approval for the change of the use of this lot. So I'm gearing for January 1st, and work within that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Byler?
Thanks. Through the chair to, this would probably be to Anne. So regarding the individuals that are already sleeping in the recycle depot, have you had any public feedback on maybe any comings and goings from the client, from the residents as they're dropping off their recycling? Has there been any interaction that has been negative?
Not really. I mean, everyone knows that there's people that are looking through electronics and paint, and actually the RCMP are quite often coming through. We actually have surveillance 24 hours a day on cameras, and so I can see what's happening. Actually, people are very good about it, and there hasn't been any feedback on that. They are part of our community, and I think people are very accepting that there is people in our community that maybe don't have a home.
And if I can add to this too, this is, so the question might come that, oh, will this generate more problems or things like this for the police? And it is technically a very positive thing for them to have a place to sleep. So it's in their advantage to not cause too much problem and make this like a viable project. And if we have, the odd complaint or disturbance that we have to deal with, we will be glad to take care of it. But I don't expect an increase of problem having the pod at the bottle depot.
I think we've had one call out or two call outs over the last 4 or 5 years. Exactly. Actually here. So it hasn't been a huge issue.
Marissa Harry?
Yeah, just a follow-up. I know that sometimes we run into issues where there's damage that may occur that might have happened here with these pods. So with your operational costs of about $14,500 or so, do you have any maintenance costs associated with that, or would that be above and beyond, people maybe trying to cut up the vinyl or what have you, or damaging a door?
Well, of course, this is a pilot, so we had to take a shot at it to begin with. Most of that operational is for the cleaning, a daily cleaning of that. I put in a little extra for maintenance on that location. So I think we have it covered, but that being said, it is again a pilot, and so we will have a better indication next spring once we've gone through a season.
Erica, do you have any concerns about people trying to put more than one person in the pod? So one person calling you and then bringing additional people with them to the pod?
Well,
they don't watch our meetings, so they didn't hear me suggested.
I mean, of course. Who like honestly, who is going to stand, like if it's minus 40 outside or even minus 30, who in their right mind is going to have their buddy knocking on the door saying, dude, I'm freezing, I know you're in there, and they're going to leave them out there? That's probably not going to happen. They're probably going to let them in. That being said, I think we need to keep in mind that these are still emergency pods. This community is extremely great at taking care of each other. So I don't think we're going to have 20 people standing outside a pod necessarily. That's my feeling at this point. I mean, again, with it being a pilot, I can't be sure. But I know like a lot of the MAT programs are not seeing a huge influx of individuals coming into those programs. It's the people who are in need that absolutely have nowhere else to go. So, but that being said, I have no doubt that you may show up one morning and there's 2 of them in a pod. That being said, a lot of them are not socially distancing, to be honest. So if one individual has COVID, it may possibly spread through that community relatively quickly. So yeah, it's not a concern for me, but
Perfect, thank you.
you're welcome.
Oh, you had your hand up before. Good.
I think so.
Okay, sorry. I was calling on her. She's got anyone else? Now she does. Councillor Byer?
Sorry. Thanks. Through the chair to Anne and Erica. I appreciate, I didn't realize that you weren't asking for the full 64, so that's certainly a relief that you're confident that you can get some grant funding for the capital costs. For the operational costs, are you able to get grant funding for that, or how would that be, where does that come from?
I mean, maybe I'm extremely optimistic, but to me, $14,000 is not a ton of money. So I would think that would be easy enough to get through grants and fundraising. I also believe that we're in a very good time in terms of asking for donations from the community in general, which I think is one of the reasons that it's important that it be the Friendship Center that takes those donations, because we can give tax receipts for people. I'm all over blitzing, and I know in talking to Anne and Christine, there's already tons of ideas going through our heads in terms of how we're going to fundraise that. And again, just to reiterate, I'm looking for the money, or not I, but that's me speaking. We are looking for the money to be diverted from the Out of the Cold project to us. And then just whatever it is you would like to, if you have some money, donate to us in terms of COVID funding that may be available. I'll take anything. So, but yeah, I just really wanted to be clear. We are certainly not expecting council any way, shape, or form to be funding all the capital for that at all. I'm ready to run with fundraising at this point. Brah.
Councillor Chenard?
Just to refresh my memory, when you thought about possibly running this year round, did I not hear that, to keep out of the rain? Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. So when we are talking about that 14,000, that's not just to run it in the winter months. That is a year-round running it 7 days a week. My perception belief, which coincides very closely with Anne's and everybody else here, is that people need somewhere to sleep year round, not just when it's cold. When the rain is pouring, I don't even want to be in my tent. So I sure as heck wouldn't want to be homeless. So we're hoping that this pilot is successful during the winter, and then we can run it all year round. If nobody uses the pods, then there's actually no maintenance. No cleaning that needs to be done. But I love my job, and I'm very passionate about the individuals that I work with. I would like to see the possibility of somewhere for them to sleep, to be present all year round. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Good. Well, thank you. I think we're done. I would just also like to say I really love this idea, and I think it's fantastic who you have sitting at the table. It's really nice to see that you guys have gotten all the partners there, and especially getting AHS involved with the health inspector, knowing that we're not starting something and then having to go back because we didn't kind of follow our rules along that. I think that's really smart, and just having everyone at the table, RCMP and that, I think that's the way we have successful projects, and it's so nice to see our community going out and doing this. So thank you for doing that. Do you have anything else for us before we say good night?
No, I just like to say thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. And would really like to say thanks. I hope that this is something that gets approved and we get some support financially and as well just in terms of emotionally is not the word I'm looking for, but do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Come on, somebody help me out here.
Well, and for the Recycling Society, the biggest thing is that ability to actually look at this within our lease and to be able to look at that development permit. That's the first step for us. And we are thinking of this as a pilot. So we think it's a very good idea, but you know, until you're nothing ventured, nothing gained, and you miss all the shots you don't take. So we're gonna try this and see how it goes.
Well, fantastic. Thank you very much. And feel free to stay online and continue to watch us.
Thank you.
In here soon.
Okay, we're gonna take this video off.
Right. Thank you. All right, moving on to reports from staff, infrastructure and planning. We've got the E-Venture Northwest Alberta. And I believe that is Mandy, our intern.
Good evening, Council. Tonight I am here to provide you an update on the North and also called as Northwest EV Charging Network, which also now called the Adventure Northwest Alberta. Can everyone hear me okay? So just a brief outline of tonight's presentation. I will start off with like an introduction, and I will kind of do like the background on the project itself. And then further on, I will kind of talk about the project update, which is including what have we achieved, the next step, the future steps. And then afterwards, we will be open for any questions that you may have for the presentation or the project itself. So as an introduction and a background, so just kind of understand like the project itself. So in mid of 2019, council directed administrations to look into investigating like EV charging station. So therefore, in November 2019, the electric vehicle charging station options was presented to council, and there were like tons of information was provided regarding on the EV charging stations itself, like the type of EV stations, and also what like the location that the EV stations are in, like within the town area. So in May 2020, the Northwest Electric Vehicle Charging Network was presented to council, and from that meeting, council endorsed that the administration or the town, so to send letters to the neighboring neighborhoods municipality to seeking for partnerships to raise seed and grant funding to initiate the technical working committee for the Northwest Electric Vehicle Charging Network. So at the end of May, the administration, the town, we have sent letters to the neighboring municipality to seek for partnership and the regional collaborations. So now you might wonder, so what happened after the end of May? So what we have achieved is that we have agreed to a regional collaborative and also formed an advisory group committee, which consists of 7 different municipalities, including the town of Hinton, the town of Edson, town of Whitecourt, town of Drayton Valley, town of Rocky Mountain House, MD of Greenview, and also city of Grand Prairie. So us as the advisory committee members, we have also committed $5,000 each into the seed funding of the projects. And then we have also signed the term of reference for collaborations. And we have also agreed on a memorandum of understanding with the Community Energy Association for facilitation, including the network design and also the funding application. So furthermore, as an advisory committee, we have also selected a brand for the project, which is shown on the right-hand side of the slide here. So we have the project logos, the tagline, and also the project statements. Furthermore, we have also confirmed on the initial scope of the project. We have like a main corridor of kind of like connectivity, including 22 or 23 locations at this moment. So for the next step forward, kind of current state and the next step we are going through, we have sent an informational letter regarding on the project to the MLA representing the regional where the advisory committee members are located. Furthermore, we have sent an informational letters also requesting funding support to the provincial ministers. So, and then afterwards, we'll be conducting like a meeting with the advisory committee just to clarify the roles and responsibility of the site host, including how we identify, engage, and partner with them. And then we will also clarify on the process of owning and operating a station and gain consensus from the advisory committee on the process and pending successful funding process. Furthermore, we will be looking into proposed site locations, which each of the host communities employing these siting criteria and outreach to host communities for those who are not represented on the advisory committee. And then we will be doing identified funding source in addition to the government of Alberta and also prepare any application going forward. So pending successful funding, further steps includes the following. So the time of these steps will kind of occur throughout the 2021 and then at the earliest, but it's kind of mainly depending on the funding applications that we have and the response that we hear from the ministers or the province as well. So for the future steps, some of the things that we'll be looking to is the a combined request of proposal for a charging infrastructure provider and long-term infrastructure owners or operator. Another one is the RFP evaluation and awards. Furthermore, we'll be doing a contract for vendors with the terms of and conditions. We will look into award contractor, evaluate proposed sites, and also issues final site designs. And then there will be host community sign off on the final site designs. And then lastly is the site installations. So this is kind of like a brief update of the project itself, kind of a summary of it. So thank you for listening to my presentation, and I'm open to answer any questions that you may have.
Fantastic presentation. I like how it was laid out. Mayor Sahara.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through to Mandy. I just want to thank you for your work on this. I know this is something you put a lot of heart and soul into over the last number of months. I know in conversations with other mayors and their conversations with MLA Long, he highly recommended looking at Alberta Innovates. I don't know if you've applied to them or had any discussions with them, but certainly something that we can look forward to through Alberta Innovates as a possible funding source. And I'm more than happy to arrange a meeting with Minister Schweitzer if necessary as well to have that conversation. I know our regional partners are very excited about this regional opportunity. So thanks for keeping us updated. One question through to Mandy though. How are the other councils being updated on the progress on this? Is it members of the committee that are updating them, or are you looking at doing presentations to those councils as well?
I believe, I'm unsure about if there were, I believe there was updates to council as well, but I'm not sure if there were actual presentations that providing an update to them. Okay. But I can for sure seek into our advisory committee and I can follow up on that.
Right, perfect.
Thank you. If I may just add to that, Mandy, in our initial conversations, this is quite early in the process, so I think it would be worthwhile for Mandy to update this with the partners. One of the things that was agreed upon early on is that each administration would keep their individual councils up to date on the project. And certainly we can just refresh that and ensure that that's taking place. And certainly they all have access to the document that was attached to the agenda, which would be easy enough for them to at minimum circulate to their councils and then if they so choose to go through an update similar to what Mandy brought forward.
Councillor Wilkinson?
Through the chair, Mandy, I'd like to thank you for that presentation. I found it very interesting and really congratulating you on getting collaboration with so many different municipalities. I think that's very good. We've tried other times and it hasn't been successful, so kudos to you for that, and I love your tagline. I think that's great. Thank you.
Councillor Schnurr?
Just a clarification where you got MD Greensview, is that Grand Cache?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, I was just looking at it and I thought, wait a minute, we forgot him and then it cleared in, but yes, I'm glad it's moving forward. So the update, so each person put in $5,000. If it's to move ahead, well, what could we look for in expenses? Like there is 5,000 feet, but if you put the tenders out, would there be extra costs, or is this paid for by grant or some other form of government to put all the stations in play?
Thank you. I can answer that, Mandy. I think it's too soon, Councillor Chenard, to identify specific costs. As Mandy outlined in her presentation, the hope is that we will find grant opportunities to fund the bulk of the costs associated with it. We anticipate that we'll be quite successful in the long term in terms of securing funding. And you know, as the mayor mentioned, there's many sources out there, both in terms of economic activity such as tourism and those types of things, as well as green energy initiatives. And so there's a number of programs that we'll be hoping to tap into cover the costs. That all being said, if and when the costs become clear that are remaining for the municipality, that will be something that will be presented at a future date for council's consideration.
Good, thank you.
Councillor Byer?
Thanks. Through the chair to, I think to Mandy. Thank you for the presentation. I think this is a great project and a way to diversify and show Alberta that we're interested in green energy a little bit, and at least moving forward into the future as we're aware that this is probably not going away. What else is required of council for this? Do you require us to, I know that you need, have to contact the MLA. Is there anything else that's required of us to keep it moving forward?
I believe at this, sorry for the chair to Council Meyer. I believe at this moment we'll be, because we're waiting, we had approached the MLA and also the province, so we're kind of like want to hear back from their support first, I think, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, thank you. I would agree with that. I don't think we need any specific action from council at this point in time, mostly just being aware of and speaking to your regional colleagues as well as provincial, the MLA or other provincial bodies that you may interact with, but no formal action required at this point.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Wilkinson?
Through the chair to CEO Derricott. Do any of the electrical companies sponsor any of these things? I mean, they're making money in the long run, as per usual.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, Mandy, please add if you're aware of something. So in a few of the other partnerships, there has been collaborations between a number of partners, some of them government, some of them private business. The Peaks to Prairies line,
Yeah,
I believe that there, ATCO is closely associated with that, and so we're certainly hoping to collaborate in a similar way with a number of partners. And I think with the nature of this project, I won't be surprised at all that they will come to us as much as us go to them. It's quite an attractive project for those types of entities.
Thank you. Anyone else by council? My questions were all answered. I just want to say thank you. I'm impressed with how much you guys have accomplished. I know how hard it is to get a logo, get a tag, all of that. So it is really impressive, and I think it looks great. So it's exciting. I wasn't expecting the update to be so far ahead. So well done.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do you have everything you need from us? Good to go.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Is anyone else worried?
Before the roof falls in.
Anybody checking in on this? All right, moving on to corporate services, 2020 uncollectible accounts.
Madam Chair, if the lights flicker, I am running out of
Okay. Has anybody sent a message to have it checked?
Took a peek out the window and it's windy.
Oh, is it blowing outside?
Mr. Passy, you're up.
Good evening. Each year we review our outstanding accounts and see where they're at and recommend some to council to write off. the accounts attached, you can see most of them have been placed with collection agencies, and we have to wait 2 years once they've been sent to the debt collector to then write them off. Other ones are they're bankrupt or we can't send certain accounts to the debt collectors. And then you'll see on the taxes one, there's some linear ones, and that has to do with the provincial education requisition credit and the designated industrial requisition credit. So what that is when we write off the taxes, then the provincial government will send us, or they'll put a credit on our account for what we owe them, equal to the amount that those taxes would be in that requisition. And so that we don't end up having to pay those ones, but we do have to write off the taxes before we can apply for that.
Okay. Thank you. Questions? Councillor Wilkinson?
Through the chair, what percentage does a collection agency take in order to collect bad debts?
I'm not sure. I don't know what their amounts would be that they collect. I'm not sure.
Well, I know it is some percentage, and then I look at some of these small amounts and I wonder, is it even feasible to be wasting our time and energy going after them, or like say $100 and under, not bother with?
Thank you. Through the chair, just to add to what Mr. Passy shared, typically there's no cost unless they collect, and so
Okay. All right, so I guess you get a percentage.
yeah,
of
whatever we get, we wouldn't have gotten
Okay, as
otherwise,
long as we
and
don't
there's
pay.
no cost
Okay.
unless there's a collection that takes place.
Okay, good, thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Chenard?
So our grand total would be 28,000 going back to 2018, is that correct?
That's correct. That's how much we write off.
Because
this
there's
time.
one large account, but we don't know what that is, the 24,000? That was an individual debt through bad taxes or something?
That's through the other information on that one. It says it's linear taxes. That's directly related to one of the PERC or the DIRC amount. Everything else comes to about $3,800.
Right, I would say most of the total, it was just that magic of 24, but the rest of them, I have to agree with the comment. You can go through collection, they take anywhere from 10% to 90%, so at the end of the day, whatever they take, we get, so. Okay, that was just my comment, thank you.
Councillor Byer?
Thanks. Through the chair to Mike Passy. Does this number, the 28,000, does that trend higher or lower than previous years of bad debt that's written off?
I can't remember what went last year. In previous budgets, we've budgeted the bad expense amount of being about $4,000 to $5,000. This introduction of the PERC and the DIRC changed that a little bit because then we can write off those linear taxes to get those credits. But the rest of it is pretty in line with how much we generally budget in past budgets to be along those lines.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, nothing from me.
Okay, I
All
will
right, thank you very
bring
much.
that back to a council meeting then.
You have everything you need? I'm impressed that number seems fairly low, decent. All right, moving on to Community and Protective Services, Out of Cold Initiative. And we have Mrs. Byers coming on, Community Development Manager.
Good evening, everyone. As you've already heard most of the information from the group earlier, I don't have a lot to add to that, other than, as they mentioned, myself and Al Schramm were part of collaborative meetings with this group. We, as you can see in the report, we are in favor of moving that $6,000 that we annually have budgeted towards the Out of the Cold and moving it towards this, much more sustainable and, hopefully much more successful program that works much better for the homeless individuals.
Perfect, thank you. Council, questions? Councillor Schneider.
I'm gonna try to get a question on the liability end of it. So when we had the temporary ADCO trailer, because anytime you're putting up a shelter, there's some liability and that would be an expense. So that was the problem most of them had. We build the building, people show up, something goes wrong. We did any investigation on what that would cost for insurance, or even what our presentation earlier, if the town can do it cheaper, just so something goes wrong, who's paying the insurance bill?
Through the chair to Councillor Chouinard, we at this point haven't done the numbers, and essentially anything I guess that takes place on town
That's correct,
property
yeah.
is liability could fall to us.
Right.
And what that amount may look like, I'm not sure. But I don't expect that liability would be any worse than we take on at any given park or program we run, or like there's a certain level of risk, I feel like, no matter what we're doing. But I'm sorry, I can't give you a number on what it may cost.
My only reason I'm bringing it up is because I'm fully understanding where we have liability in parks and that stuff. So this organization trying to do it, because I'm in favor of it, we need to do something. So if part of our involvement could be is we could help with the liability of it. We do own the building and we lease it. That may save them a huge cost. It's the only reason I'm bringing it up, because that was one of the biggest concerns. Unless someone can answer that.
Thank you through the chair. So it's not anticipated that this program would incur any additional direct costs for liability insurance. We have liability insurance already that covers us for basically all kind of town activities, and I don't have any reason to believe that this wouldn't cover us in particular in our part. Just as the property owner, we're not actually going to be operating or running the program. And it is our understanding that they are pursuing liability insurance directly through the recycling societies as well. I think we're satisfied that there will be liability insurance in place. I think it's just important that council understands that as the property owner there, that if something unfortunate does occur, that we're just tied to the program as the property owners. I do not think that should stop town council from supporting this initiative, but I just think it's important that we're aware of that reality.
Thanks.
Councillor Beyer?
Thanks. Through the chair to Tanya. So I asked this question, I guess, a little bit too earlier to the group previous. We had discussions about the kind of, I think Councillor Chouinard mentioned like the ATCO trailers or something along those lines. Was there anything out there that had a similar type of setup to it, just as a pilot project? I don't know if there was something similar to that. I'm just a little bit nervous about using the building. I love the idea. I love the location. I think everything's great, the collaboration. I'm just nervous about using a space that's designated for the Recycling Society as a pilot.
Through the chair to Councillor Beyer, because Garnet was the person who had ordered the last one and whatnot, I don't have numbers exactly, but I did talk to the company because they were also providing the heated outhouse that they would need for this project. Essentially, they can build us anything. So they can take a C-can and turn it into a 5-unit facility. Again, it just comes with cost. You can rent it at the end of the day. Is it worth renting, or do you purchase it? But I don't have an actual number on what that may be. I can find out.
Yeah, I think I would add to that. I certainly think that we feel that we could get a trailer cheaper than $60,000. One of the concerns that was mentioned in the report, the delegation presentation, was that there may be some concerns from the health aspect of it, public health, in terms of how those are situated, and that there may be some favorable outcomes constructing it in the manner they're describing. And so from the town perspective, I don't think, if the Recycling Society feels comfortable giving up that space, I think that that's kind of their determination to make. And also in particular, they're not asking us for a large capital investment. And so if the pilot project doesn't work, it won't have cost the town directly a significant amount of money.
Perfect, thank you. Do you have follow-up to that?
Sorry, no, I was really just going to add that I am absolutely thrilled with the collaborative partnership that has come out of this. And I think for a long time, we've been looking to our community to say, how can we work together? How can we make this happen? And, I'm just so impressed right from the get-go. They didn't come with their hand out. They were saying, we really want to do this. We need the town's blessing. How do we go about it? And of course, the collaboration and the strength and having all the right players at the table working together. I just think they really need to be commended for that. And also that, the Recycle Depot is willing to give up this space. And I'm just really impressed, and I really want to support the project the way that they have it lined up.
Just to add comment to that, I think just having been on the board before with the Recycling Society, they're already using the building. Yeah, so a part of this is for the Recycling Society to deal with that safety issue. Because they're already currently using the building and taking over it. And they did last year experience quite a bit of damage to their other facilities, because our homeless population has chosen them. They have chosen the site. And so last year with the, not the take it or leave it, but the new, yeah, they had break-ins on a regular occasion. So for the Recycling Society, this actually takes away some of that liability of the safety concerns of their stuff continuously getting broken into.
Madam Chair, if I may add to that, I think there's again, I echo, and I just want to support what Tanya said in terms of the, actually doing something about a problem. I think you all know how I feel about that. Is it's better to do something than nothing, and so I love the concept. I love the idea. And so what I share next, please don't take that in any means to discourage this. It's just there's some realities associated with these types of projects that I think are meaningful to discuss here. And one of those things is that the outcomes of institutionalizing a space like that as a place for homeless activity can have potential for congregation and other elements that from all the parties that are involved saying they're willing and understand and accept those risks. Again, I'm not saying we shouldn't also accept the associated risks. I just think we want to go into that with our eyes wide open. I will use just an example that I'm just somewhat familiar with is the safe injection site in Lethbridge, Alberta. I don't know if you're familiar at all with that. It's a similar concept. It's a harm reduction program, and there was all kinds of challenges and issues and that came along with trying to serve these challenged populations. I'm very supportive again of the area, the concept, and all of this. I just think we want to be prepared to for the potential that there may be some unintended consequences that come along with the approach that's being proposed here, and one of which is for us to just keep in mind that our interest in this site is as a waste management facility, and we don't want to disrupt the great work that's going on there in any way. And right now, I think if you were to ask members of the general public, I think very, very, very few users of that facility would conceptualize at all that homeless people are using that at the night or anything like that. And so it has no impact whatsoever on users' perspective. But if you institutionalize it and say that this is going to be a place where homeless people are living, I hope not. I don't want it to have an impact on the community, but I think it will potentially have a changed perspective on what's happening at that facility. I don't want to overstate that, but again, I'm just trying to introduce the concepts to ensure they're in council's consciousness as we consider this opportunity.
Thank you. Here's Sarah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we spoke earlier, we've talked about at the Homelessness Addictions Mental Health Task Force that the town of Edson can't do these things on its own. It takes a community effort, and here we are. We have the community stepping forward saying, hey, we found a solution. I think we need to unlock that potential and support it as much as we can. Burying our heads in the sand like some communities do and not wanting to deal with the issue is not helpful, and it's not going to help the population. And we know calls for service for the RCMP are up. A lot of it associated with these clientele, and I think too, if you find that part of the Housing Plus model is stability and putting a roof over people's heads is a first step on the road to hopefully stabilizing these individuals. I think we need to step up. I think that what they're asking for here is a pittance to what it costs us in healthcare and in policing and vandalism, and some of those stuff is obviously going to continue to occur. But at least we're trying to find some solutions here, which I'm really excited about. So I'm in favor of moving that money from the Out of the Cold initiative and providing some capital dollars from our COVID reserve to get this going. We are already in the middle of winter, almost feeling really today. I like the idea of not having it in the building myself personally, but I also know that when the golf course was looking at moving the trailers from Repsol, the cost was just horrendous. And this initiative, we actually have a Board of Health Services and the health inspector involved in this. And with that support, I'm very confident moving forward on this pilot. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, at least we've tried. And I'm proud of that fact that we're actually trying something.
Councillor Sorensen?
Through the chair to administration, I have one quick question and then a statement. I wasn't clear on how long this pilot was proposed for.
I don't think they gave us a time.
Okay, so yeah, that raises a bunch of issues with me.
So sorry, Councillor Swin, this may support your point, if I may just add before you make your statement. We have not yet received a development permit request. I'm assuming that will be forthcoming should council decide to support this initiative. I haven't had this conversation with our planning staff, but my initial thought would be that we would look at a temporary permit as a way for us to both assess the land use questions that were raised earlier, but also the general effectiveness of the program and whether or not it's appropriate for that space, et cetera. That will probably also would allow us to process the request as quickly as possible, and that may be where we can get some visibility on the time frame there.
So if I may, through the chair to everyone, like I said before, I am very confident and pleased with the players at the table. I think that everyone that needs to be there is there. I'm in support of this pilot project. I think it should be 1 or 2 years. And I agree with the administration's comment that it should be a temporary permit so that if it's not meeting the needs of the town, or if there's issues that are undesirable, that we can revert back to the original land use of and the lease of the recycling depot. One thing I have deep concerns about is adding support for ongoing operational work that is the provincial's responsibility. So as such, I would suggest that we support the capital side of the project and not the operational side, and that we do it on a very specific short term, maybe 1 or 2 years, and that we have clear, I hate to say it again, but we have clear metrics or a way to evaluate this program at the end of the 2 years. If it gets used once a month, is that enough to support this program? If it gets used, like, how do we judge a successful program? So those are my comments. Thank you.
Councillor Beyer?
Thank you. Through the chair to administration, is this something that, so I'm supportive of it. Being on the homelessness task force, I as mayor suggested, I think that this is something that, didn't come quite to mind, and I think from the taxpayer's perspective, probably one of the cheapest ways that we can maybe do this, if they're not asking us for anything more than that 6,000. And all the players are at the table. The people that need to be there are there. I did question the pilot length as well. And is there a way for us to receive updates on how it's going? I know last year we received kind of regular updates, just how many people were there, and just kind of, there was some feedback that, it was learnings for everybody, for the community, for administration, for everyone, even for the homelessness, to know where it is and how to utilize it. I would just appreciate some updates on that, as they are members of our community, and Edsonites realize, especially in the winter and on cold nights, that we have a large homeless population. So I think this is a great thing to have. I am a little concerned about the congregation. By stating that that's the location that we may attract more, or I'm not sure how that might go. If they want to bring their friends, that's up to them, I suppose. But one thing is the needle. So I know the needle collection program was kind of discontinued, so is there a way to get like a needle box there or something? Because I think that, you know, maybe they're already utilizing the facility, but you know, maybe a disposal site would be appropriate to just enhance safety.
Through the chair, that's certainly something that we've already talked about, whether
Okay.
we're giving them individual ones that they can use or
Okay.
installing them there, but definitely.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Schnurr?
What we have to remember is the ask of the town. They're looking for $6,000, and how long will it take for the permitting? So my question to administration, if they put the permits in Monday morning, how long will it take for them to move ahead with the project? That's the important part. That's what they asked us for. $6,000, and when can we start?
Okay. Through the chair, it's important to remember that $6,000 that we had allocated to this annually, some of that's already been used from January to March, so we don't have as much. Maybe we have half, I don't know the numbers. Guy wasn't able to dig them up before he left. But let's say we have half of that money left, then, I mean, we can get that out really quickly. But as far as, you know, January, we would have that 6,000 again, I guess, in hand that we could grant.
Yeah, see, my thing isn't the money, but my question is to administration then, if they put the permits out Monday, how long would it take before they could start the project? Because it was something about a temporary one, but it is November and they gotta get started on before it's spring.
Thank you through the chair to Councillor Chenard. I just recently met with our planning staff and they are not currently overwhelmed with development permits. So
Okay,
I would suggest that they would be able to give that some direct and immediate attention. I don't want to put a specific time frame on it because it is specific to the, you know,
Correct,
what the
yeah.
permit asks and what's required of it. But I would suggest that it could receive, you know, fairly immediate attention from our planning staff.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'd like to add one more comment through the chair to Councillor Sorensen. You had spoken of, you know, more of a comfort level with giving capital funding as opposed to the other. What I found with any program that I've been a part of, it's easy to kind of get the grants and whatnot up front for capital. It's a lot harder to keep it sustainable with ongoing funding for the cleaning and the staffing and that sort of thing. While I appreciate your comments as well, I think, you know, with the 6,000 that we've allocated, I would like to see them, you know, be able to count on that because that's about operating it and keeping it going, which is so important. There's no point building it if we can't keep running it.
Councillor Wilkinson?
Through the chair, I'd just like to say that I am fully in support of this. And I hope that we can issue the variance to them for the use. I'm a current member now of the recycling committee and 12 members there went into this with their eyes wide open. And they know what they're getting into, but they do need the variance. And I don't think we need to keep strings on it. If it doesn't work, we take it back. Surely to goodness, this group that's together can figure out if it's working or not. Like, that should be pretty easy. So I think it's a great initiative and we can't just keep doing nothing and talk about it. We have to do something.
Mayor Sahara?
So, yeah, I agree that, you know, we gotta buckle down and just get some stuff done in regards to homelessness in our community. I guess where is council's comfort level? This is the big question on financial support for something like this. I have my own opinions, but I guess where's council on that? $6,000 is not a lot. I agree that you can get all kinds of money for capital. Capital is certainly easy. It's the operational. That's really difficult. And where do we want the volunteers in these organizations spending their time? Fundraising to keep a program going or getting it built and then being able to run that program and doing it successfully. You know, we do have COVID funds, and a lot of what's being presented here is in relation to COVID. For the sanitization, this is how this is all sort of coming together. You know, I would be happy to see us fully funding the operational piece and having them figure out that capital portion, because I think there's a lot of opportunities through different companies to fund that piece. But that's just my opinion.
Through the chair, to administration, how much do we have in our COVID fund
Thank you.
approximately? I mean, besides
You
about the
thought you were
3,000
getting away with this tonight. Ms. Bittner?
You guys got to give us the heads up when you're going to ask about that.
I sent her a text.
You should just have a countdown clock.
I believe in the COVID, it is around 700,000.
Okay, so we have some funds. Okay.
How much of that is allocated to our loan program? Or is that?
That's the unallocated.
That's the unallocated.
Okay, perfect, okay.
Plus the
Thank you.
50.
So I agree with it.
Councillor Beyer?
Thanks. Through the chair to council. So I asked all the questions about the funding earlier because I thought initially they were asking for 60,000. Didn't quite understand that they were confident that they would be able to fully fund it. And I think I've heard that around the table before that the capital, it's easy to get funding for the capital. It's operational. That's always a challenge. I feel that the $14,000 is not very much. And of course, I think that's also that's a preliminary number. They're estimating that. They don't know what it will cost. There could be some maintenance costs that come in too, right? We don't know, it's a pilot, right? This is something new. But I know some of the other ideas that the homelessness task force had, some ideas that, could have come towards council at some point. I think those costs would have been higher. So I think that this is a pretty reasonable deal for that 14,000 to help them with those operational costs. But I do also side with Councillor Sorensen. I would prefer to have a 1 or 2 year timeline. I'm not sure what the development permit looks like, but and not to say let's shut it down in 2 years, but I think it gives us a time to properly reflect on it and understand if there were some undesirable things happening that we couldn't have anticipated from the community's perspective and residents. We need to, their comfort level has to be addressed with this as well. And that would, I think, give us that proper time to address their needs as well. So.
Thank you. If I may add to this, if council's direction is to support operational funding, I would just make sure that you consider an ongoing operational support. How are you going to fund that in the future? And typically we don't like to fund operational things through reserves because you're building a program that needs to carry on. Certainly we have access to the covert reserve at the discretion of council. This is more of a future consideration than an immediate consideration. Is that I think at minimum administratively we've already said, hey, if this program functions as they hope it functions, this is a much better use of the $6,000 that we have already allocated for an out of the cold solution, and would be very comfortable recommending that at minimum that $6,000 operationally would go towards this in this year and future years moving forward. Again, that's more just a context piece for council as they consider an operational funding arrangement. Short term reserve I think is fine, but if this is intended as described there to build a long-term program, that you would want to consider what a long-term funding model might look like. That's not a question you have to answer tonight. I just want that in the back of your minds as you consider the future of this program.
Thank you. I have a few comments. I have less concerns as far as like usage in the sense of numbers and stuff. I think as soon as this is developed, if it has low usage, that's a fantastic sign. That shows that our social services are working. If it has high usage, we know we need to do stuff. So I think once that's set up, my more concerns would be that it's working in the sense of safety and operationally that it's not costing that. So those would be more mine. I'm less worried about usage other than for the fact of, do we need to add in more supports and are we missing something within the community? I would typically agree with the operational, and I do think I would definitely, we're already, have committed to that 6,000. I think in this situation for this year, getting it going, the operational is for 12 months. And so my fear would be is if we gave that money for operation, it would not be allowed to be used for capital because we've given it as capital. And the number one thing that they need to get done, as far as I'm concerned, as soon as possible, it's already November, it's already been cold, is the capital and getting it built. So when I think about, I kind of see the operational and capital as two different things, like as the start of this project and then the future operational. But for this, I just would be concerned at us making that decision saying, hey, we're going to give 14,000 or whatever it is, it's for operation. And now they can't use that for any of the build. And this can't become operational without the build. And that operational cost is for that 12 months. And I do think we know that the priority right now is getting it built for the winter for sure. So I would definitely like to see that we definitely put some money into the capital of it to ensure that that capital happened. Mayor Sahara?
Yeah, this is, the timing here is kind of the key piece to this. Maybe what we should be looking at is a one-time grant of X amount of dollars, and they can use that for their capital, and if they're able to get fundraising, then they can use whatever they're saving through their fundraising efforts on the operational side for the upcoming, for the rest of this year. And then maybe keeping that $6,000 there if necessary. And if they want to reapproach us next year or they need it down the road, because that piece is already built into our budget. And I hear under administration's concern is, yeah, we can do it for 1 or 2 years, funding it out of the COVID reserve. But after that, then what happens, we're going to be looking at adding 0.5 or 1% on our tax rates and all that sort of thing. We do have money in the COVID reserve. Maybe we do a one-time grant. That way, I know these folks are going to go out there and fundraise and try to get supported as they can. And I know there's going to be community members that want to give to this. So anything additional they can put towards their operational and how they want to work that. But it's just a one-time grant of, say, $60,000, and they can use that to help fund their operations next year, the future years. I don't know if administration has a thought on that.
I'll add to this. I'll build on this, Mayor. I know I've sat in this council chambers with this council, and we have been frustrated with the provincial governments giving us grants for things that we don't actually need grants for, where we need grants for different purposes. And so I don't want to be that same government agency that tells this group, well, use this for capital or use this for operations. What does it matter? And especially in the early going as a pilot project, I think, and this is, I think, in essence, what you were saying is give them whatever amount of money you're comfortable, and they can decide whether they want to use it for operations or whether they want to use it for jump-starting the the physical construction or whatever part of it may come. I don't think there's anyone here that thinks, I hope, that they're better suited to make that determination than the group of people that presented and is considering the impact both at the operational level as well as at the physical level. And so I'm supportive, Mayor Zahara, of what you suggested. Let's just get out of the way at that level, and if we're going to support it, and then let them determine where they need that most. That is, for me, kind of at the short-term initial investment. And if that is the case, I think you would also just have to make it very, very clear that you are not currently making a long-term commitment to any operational costs associated with it.
Councillor Sorensen?
Through the chair to council, Mr. Mayor, you started off so well, and then I can't agree with everything you said. So I'm in full support of, like I said, a capital grant, and even up to the full amount of their capital needs, because this is going to be a building left on town-owned land. It makes sense for it to remain or to be paid for through the town. But I would put $0 in the next 2 years budget for shelter operations, or I wouldn't keep that $6,000 in there. And by making one-time contribution to capital, you can make it extremely clear that there's no ongoing operational guarantees for support. And I understand administration's comment that grants are a lot easier to get for capital. But on the same token, if there is a board that's running this, that's what they're going to do every year, is go out and find operational grants and operational donations. So I think it makes sense for a board to seek out operational funds, and for us to do a one-time contribution, and then really we're not stepping on provincial toes on ongoing operational support for provincial program. Thank you.
Councillor Chenard and then Mayor Sahara.
Now I know why they call you Councillor Chenard. What we're looking at here is we are forgetting the whole thing. Overwhelmingly last year when we said go out of the cold, we said, hey, let's give 6,000. They're asking for 6,000. Let them move forward. It is a pilot project. And I believe that no matter who's sitting in these chairs, when we're saying a minimum of $1,000 a month is what it works out to look after our homeless population, I don't see anything to debate. They're only asking for $6,000. Let them move forward. Let them try their project, and then they can come back to us. Worst case scenario, it's $1,000 a month to look after our homeless people. I don't see anything to debate.
Mayor Sahara?
Madam Chair, you look confused.
I just think, to respond to that, Councillor Schnard, lots of us are discussing giving more than the 6,000 to help support the 60,000 capital.
I fully appreciate that, but they asked, we're agreed, let's move forward.
I think that's not, right now we're just discussing what we're looking at for funding and where we fall on that. So where people are comfortable with their funding. Mayor Sahara?
So through to Councillor Sorensen's point, I think what you'll find when you're dealing with the homelessness issue in rural Alberta, there are no funds for operational. They have tried and tried and tried again. It's very difficult, and that's not just homelessness. A lot of the preventative social services, it's really, really hard. I think we do need to provide what are we building if they can't operate the program, right? So they do need some base funding there that I think they and I'm sure people will donate and they'll be successful in that. So from my point of view, this is where I stand, just to get this conversation going. A one-time $60,000 grant to get the capital underway from the COVID-19 reserve and keep the $6,000 in there annually for homelessness to help with operational, but that would be it. There'll be no increases, and they have to apply for that $6,000 if they need it through the FCSS programming services. If they don't need it, then we shouldn't be doling out those funds. If they're able to fundraise or find those operational grants, or ARDN comes out with some operational streams, that's where I'm at. So.
Do we want to go around a table and see how people feel about that? Councillor Sorensen?
Sure. So I'm in support of a $60,000 capital grant. Not in support of any ongoing operational grants. And I would only vote in favor of this if it was a 2-year temporary permit with clear expectations on how to evaluate the pilot program.
Councillor Griffin?
I support the 60,000. I also support the 6,000 per year too, and that. And if it's a 1 or 2 year pilot project, so I also agree that if they do get funding in that, they may not have to come back to us for the 6,000 or whatever in that. So I mean, it's there now. Let's use it. Let's support them. This is a long, ongoing thing we've had for many, many, many years, and it's just not getting any better. We have a chance to make it better and to move our community forward with a whole lot of people here in that. So I do support it, just like the Mayor Sarah does.
Thanks. Councillor Schnard?
I like the 60,000, but not for a grant. They clearly asked us for 6,000, so we can give them $6,000 for the next 10 years operating. They said they can get grants to build a building. They need operating, so give them 60,000, 6,000 for the next 10 years. That's what they asked for.
Councillor Breyer?
Thanks. I felt that they were very confident that they would be able to seek grants with this. That's why I asked so many questions about the financial aspect of it. I completely support the project, but I would prefer to maybe not give $60,000 on it, unless they're asking for it. I feel that the time commitment of the 2 years, I want to see how that goes. Right, it's a pilot, and we know that things can change, and I would be comfortable with offering them $20,000, and if they need to come back for more, if they are unable to secure those donations, then I would want to look at it what it is at that time. I think if there's people that are already interested in giving them some money for this, then why are we giving the taxpayers' monies away for it? So it sounded to me like they had some really great ideas or some grants that they thought they could access. I'm supportive of helping out with operational costs for the next couple of years, as we see it as a pilot and see how it goes, because we don't know what the operational costs are until they start actually operating it. I think that's kind of a bit of a guess. So that's where I stand.
Councillor Wilkinson?
I'm fully in support of Mayor Zahara, and I think let's get this started. Let's get it off the ground. get it built. These people are working already full-time at jobs, and I mean full out, and then we're expecting them to go out and fundraise and do everything else on top of that. And I think that is expecting a lot when they're actually solving a problem for us as a town. So let's step up as a town council.
Where's Sarah?
And I'd like to point out in the presentation, they said $6,000 and anything else we would like to give.
Right.
And I think it was rightly pointed out, we are November 10th, and we don't have a lot of time before it's going to be -30 outside. So I don't think we have time to waste to wait for grants and hopefully for donations. I know this group, if they don't need the money, they're not gonna, they won't take it, or they will put it towards something that's really gonna help this population.
I'd just like to add one thing to the group. We, through FCSS and even our whole community development team, we put a lot of emphasis on our grant packages this year, and just ensuring that when we do give out grant money that we're able to collect strong outcomes, and we'll do goal setting and outcome planning with the organization. So they're part of it. They say, yes, this is what we want to achieve. We ensure that that's in line with what the town is wanting as well. And, certainly that's a process that we would undertake, and would take any ideas you have into account to say, what do you want to collect? What numbers do you want to see? Just to ensure that we're, having that accountability and transparency in place as well.
I get to speak.
Go ahead, you're the chair.
I am in support of it as a one-time grant of $60,000. I think that, one, I don't doubt that they could get the money. I don't think they can get the money as fast as we would like this to happen. I think unfortunately, you're not getting $60,000 from the community, so you're talking about grant funding, and just that's the process of what's available now, what's current, and I don't think this is something we can wait on. I would hope that if the group didn't need all the funds and they could utilize their resources to, get better deals on stuff, that's fantastic. But I think the priority is getting this built and getting it done right away. I also think it is on our land, and it does, and so there is that priority of just making sure that we do have a part of that, and knowing that the building permits, all of that have to be decoded and such. And then as far as, I'll be honest, when this comes to the table, I don't think that the operating in the future year should be at the table yet. I don't think that's, I think right now it's kind of that, or if it is, I do think that operating should be through a grant funding. So it should be, if we're talking operating, it would be through, as Mayor Sahara had said, that it comes to us as a grant fund that they have to apply for. And then, like anything, it just depends on the need at the time. That's where I stand on it. Councillor Schnurr?
Just a clarification, when I asked the question, she clearly told me back I wasn't understanding, we weren't asking for the money. She clearly told me that. So is there any way we can give them the $60,000? They can use it for whatever, because they said they didn't want the 60, and I'm not trying to hold the project up, but they're asking for operation money. So is there any way we can give them the 60,000? It's a very trusting group. Let them spend it how they see fit. And that way, if they want to use it, or my earlier comment, 60,000 operating for the next 10 years, so be it. We're giving it to a group, and they are solving a problem for us. So if we can give them 60,000 for them to spend as they see fit, no strings attached, operation or budget, whatever you want.
Well, Councillor Schnurr, they were really clear that yes, their only ask for us was that 6,000, but that they would be going out strongly trying to get. They didn't have the 60,000, and for the capital move forward, so that they would take anything we would give them to help with that.
But well, can respond. The question is, I'm not against. Here's 60,000. Spend it how you see fit, and make the project happen.
Mayor Sahara?
Couldn't agree more with Councillor Chenard. Hold my support 100%.
Now, what was falling on the ceiling?
Right? We're all still here.
Sorry, one last comment. I know that they're, like you say, is concerned about what if this pilot project doesn't go well, or what is the length. The strong feeling that I get from this group, they call a spade a spade. They're not coming saying that they're not promising the moon. They're saying, you know what, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll rip it out and start over, or figure something else out. So I think we will continue to have that open dialogue. We'll be meeting with them. We'll know how things are going. So I don't expect any smoke and mirrors. If it's not working, we're going to figure it out real quick, I think.
That's good.
And further to your point, Tanya, you're right. You got the group there that is going to figure it out. And this is the group of individuals that will actually make it a success if it's going to be successful. If it was just the town of Edson doing it, it wouldn't be a success. But these people are connected with the individuals they're trying to support. To have AHS, the RCMP at the same table saying, yes, this is something, I think speaks volumes.
Councillor Sorensen?
I hate to be negative, but if we don't have clear evaluation on what isn't a success, we won't. I know that this group is extremely hardworking board, and they will keep this going way longer than it should be. Even when everybody else in town knows that it's a failure, they'll keep it going because they're so passionate about the issue. So my fear isn't that they're not going to put all their 100% effort into it, or that they're going to pull the plug too early or something. My fear is that it's not going to be a success, and then people are just going to keep working on it and trying to keep it going.
Mayor Sarah, then Councillor Wilkinson?
I don't think you know the homelessness worker too well. Councillor Sorensen, the individual that's running the homelessness program would be the first to shut something down if it's not successful. She's done that in the past. So I'm confident. I do believe we do need outcomes. I think there's some key outcomes. Are we having homelessness deaths on the street? That's a horrible thing to say, but that is, if you're still seeing people dying on the streets, being frozen, then something is not working here. Are we seeing our homelessness counts go down? Are we seeing people transition into more stable housing and supports? Are there lower calls of service to the RCMP, to AHS for these individuals? If they're stuck out on the street, it's the emergency services at the emergency room that are dealing with them with frozen toes, and what are the costs associated with that? So I don't know how we can quantify that from a financial point of view as a cost benefit analysis. But I think some of the key metrics are homelessness counts and what that looks like. Calls for service, vandalism in that particular area. I think those are all key things, and the great outcome, or the hopeful outcome of them actually getting the supports that they need, mental health and addictions, and getting them on the road to recovery.
Councillor Wilkinson?
Through the chair, really, Kevin said it all. And again, it's like through FCSS or anything, any preventative program, it's very hard to measure what you're getting on the preventative program. 7 years later, maybe you can find out what your results are. Like, are these people going to transition out of homelessness? They're not going to have a result just overnight. This is going to be a very long time process to work. But I have every confidence it will work. We have to start that preventative measure. Absolutely have to.
Okay. Any further comments? Tammy, do you feel like you have enough information to bring forward?
Absolutely.
Pretty clear about where we stand?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. All right, moving forward. Do we have any questions from media and public regarding today's meeting? No, thank you. Then I am looking for a motion for adjournment. Councillor Schneider, I'm
No
going to give it to
surprise.
you. All those in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Great.